Leafs get a right D on the first day of free agency. Take two. That's right, free agency has finally come this year. It's a little late. 4 days after the regular season usually would have started, but this is the wacky world we're in now, where free agency happens 2 days after the draft in October. Yeah, weird change of pace. Now, of course, this year the NHL got rid of the week before free agency period where free agents can talk to teams that aren't their own. So obviously because of that, in this year's first day of free agency, there were not as many signings as there usually are. A lot of the big names, Pietrangelo, Taylor Hall, are still on the board, but the Leafs did make two major splashes today. First thing, literally right at noon, the first signing of the day, the Toronto Maple Leafs sign Wayne Simmonds, Toronto boy from Scarborough, to a 1-year, $1.5 million contract. Now, Wayne Simmonds, he is not the 30-goal Wayne Simmonds of 4 years ago, yes, but he still is something that the Leafs really need. He's a guy who's not afraid to drop the gloves, a guy who has grit, a guy who, on the Leafs' fourth line, is going to be a very hard player to play against, and he wanted to come to Toronto. He took a discount to come to Toronto. He wanted to come home, and he came to Toronto knowing that he's coming into a role where he's not expected to score goals. He's expected to basically just be a pain in the ass to play against. And he seems very excited and very willing to play that pest agitator role that the Leafs desperately need. And having him on the third, fourth line, he's still able to put up 25, 30 points in a season for $1.5 million. It's not bad, not great. You can get a leagueman guy who does about the same. But the offense isn't completely dried up. He still has a little bit in the tank, have a little bit of depth scoring ability on top of just being the pest that the Leafs desperately need. Wayne Simmonds, I feel like, is going to be a fan favorite in Toronto for maybe this only one season that he's here, though if he performs well, I can see them definitely re-signing him if he's willing to take another hometown discount. And the second piece of big news, the biggest piece of news, is the Leafs, right before 7 o'clock, at about the same time as the Kadri trade happened last free agency, the Leafs sign T.J. Brodie to a 4-year, $20 million contract. That's $5 million per year. Now, T.J. Brodie is a very interesting pickup for the Leafs because he was the first guy that we were going to trade Kadri for. We had a Kadri for T.J. Brodie with extras trade planned out with the Flames last year, last free agency period. And Kadri had an 8-team no-trade list as part of his contract, and he blocked the trade to Calgary. He had them as listed as one of the 8 teams he would not go to. Thus, the trade to Colorado happened, thus we got Tyson Barrie. But T.J. Brodie was originally the right defenseman that we were trying to get last year, and now that he's a free agent, we have finally acquired him. Now, Brodie is an interesting solution to the Leafs' right D needs because he is actually a left shot defenseman. He is the rare left shot defenseman who plays the right side and the left shot defenseman who prefers to play the right side. So, well, yes, he's not the right-handed D that we desperately need, but he is a guy who plays right D, which we desperately need. And also interesting in that note that a lot of people were throwing around Weegar as a potential for the Leafs to get as someone who they're going to trade for from Florida, and he's a right shot D who plays on the left side on Aaron Ekblad's left recently in Florida. So he obviously wouldn't have been the best choice, as we would have had to get him to switch sides. T.J. Brodie, left shot defenseman, already knows how to play the right, and it's not like the Leafs haven't had left shot D have a bit of success on right D in recent years. Ron Hainsey, as much as people hated how much he played, he was very effective on the right side of D despite being a left shot. And T.J. Brodie's a guy who has done that basically his entire career, has put up regularly around 40 points a season for the Flames. This season he did have a bit of a downturn, scoring only 19 points in 64 games, but he did have 4 points in 10 playoff games. And his past seasons were far better than that, so I wouldn't read too much into this past season not being the smoothest for Brodie. But yeah, I have high hopes for Brodie as a Leaf. Hopefully he fits our system well and does better than Tyson Barrie does here. I have confidence that the Leafs aren't going to have 2 high-profile defensive additions on the right side, both flop in back-to-back years. But of course that is a possibility. Though I think Brodie's game is a bit less susceptible to being damaged by having a lack of power play time and a lack of just play running. Barrie was more of a play running guy on a team that has a lot of guys who run the play. Brodie was always good, but it was never the guy in Calgary to the extent that Barrie was the guy in Colorado, so I think he'll fit into the Leafs system a little better than Barrie did. It is going to have to be a few games in the season before we fully see how this works out. Probably be like a quarter of the season before we fully see how this is working out. But I have high hopes that a second straight big defensive addition will not flop for the Leafs. So yeah, that's what I think about what the Leafs did in the first day of free agency. Great on the forward front, a right side playing defenseman on the back end, two areas that we desperately needed players. Yes, right now we are currently $1 million over the salary cap with McCabe and Dermott still assigned, but that just means that Johnson's probably going to get moved. Honestly, there's going to be a few moves that are going to have to be made to help the Leafs conform to the cap. But for right now, it seems we've addressed our two biggest areas of concern, which is always a win in my book. So yeah, that does it for this video. As always, if you liked it, hit like. If you want to see more of my stuff, hit subscribe. Follow me on Twitter. Link is down below in the description, and I will see you next time.